ISDA Architecture Part 2. In the previous video, we have learned the outline of ISDA framework. In this video, we would discuss further concepts of ISDA documentation framework, in which we would be focusing on ISDA master agreement and schedule. The picture shows various documents involved in ISDA documentation. First, we will look at master agreement, which is in the center highlighted in yellow. It may be 1992 master agreement or 2002 master agreement. It defines the legal and credit relationship between the parties. It also includes various things like representations. These are a bit self-explanatory when you go through the section 3 of ISDA. They represent the legal status, power, confirmation that ISDA execution shall not violate or conflict any applicable laws. Other documents like constitutional documents, which are usually the formative documents of a entity or a company, like certificate of incorporation or articles and memorandum of association. Again, it depends on jurisdiction. It also defines orders, judgments, contractual restrictions, so on. And it also tells how to obtaining the governmental and other consents for master agreement, credit support documents like guarantee and collateral agreements. Representations also describe about the binding nature of the parties, obligations under master agreement or any credit support document like guarantee. There are also certain other representations like absence of certain events, absence of litigation, accuracy of specified information, and there are certain tax representations too. I would not explain about these clauses at this point of time, as we are only looking into the framework of the ISDA master agreement and its related documents. However, we will be discussing about these aspects in detail in future videos. Apart from representation, there are also events of defaults and termination events. Now, these are some of the important aspects of ISDA documentation. This gives the parties the ability to terminate the agreement with other party when they commit a default, or in case of any occurrence of termination events. In simple words, event of default are the instances in which one of the party defaults to the other party, which gives the other party the right to terminate the agreement. Hence, one of the party is at fault. These events of default are like failure to pay, breach of agreement, credit support default, cross default, bankruptcy, merger without assumption. At this point, you don't need to worry about these aspects, as here we are only discussing about ISDA architecture or framework. We would cover them in detail in future videos when we deal in detail about the events of defaults. The other important provisions are termination provisions. Now, termination provisions or termination events are different from events of default. In events of default, one of the parties is at fault, but in termination event, the incident occurs without the involvement or the cognizance of either of the parties. For example, force majeure event where natural and unavoidable catastrophes like hurricane, flood, earthquakes, so on, then interrupt the course of events and restrict the parties from fulfilling the obligations. Examples of termination events are illegality, tax event upon merger, credit event upon merger, and other additional termination events. These will be discussed in detail at the time we are discussing about termination provisions. But as of now, we are only discussing about the architecture or its framework. Apart from the master agreement, we also have covenants that parties need to comply with applicable laws. Master agreement as also incorporates confirmations, explaining the provisions, clarifying the role of confirmations and how they are exchanged. These provisions will state how the parties are bound to the terms of confirmation and how they would be exchanged. Now in the master agreement, the schedule follows. For example, for the 1992 agreement, master agreement is of 18 pages followed by the schedule, and for 2002 agreement, it is of 28 pages followed by the schedule. As I have mentioned before, schedule is used to elect the specific provisions of the master agreement. It gives the parties to determine the applicability of clause. The clause can also be tailored as per the negotiations between the parties. All the negotiated terms are incorporated in the schedule. We will discuss about the schedule in great detail when we are discussing about ISDA negotiations. In this video, we have discussed about ISDA master agreement and schedule as a part of ISDA framework documents. In the next video, we will discuss ISDA architecture related to confirmations. Please send your feedbacks to derivatives.documentation@gmail.com. Do subscribe to receive updates for the channel Derivatives Documentation. Please do like and share the video if you found the content useful. Thank you.